Friends, Dave Paulides, Can Missing Project, and that is the executive producer Huck L. Berry. She just got done eating breakfast, and she is very excited for today. Huh, girl? Ain't you a good girl? Yeah? Yeah? She's a good girl. She's a good girl. Yeah. 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 We're going to have temperatures mid-70s today. It's going to be an absolutely perfect spring day in Montana. And I just talked to Joe Hauser over at the Vortex. He said it is green, beautiful, and things are popping over there. So that's good. That's really good. Now, you don't hear this very often, but the National Park Service just issued a warning. This is from People magazine, 24th of May this year. National Park Service shares dire warning about bears after multiple tragedies ahead of summer travel season. The National Park Service is encouraging travelers to maintain caution as bears come out in the warmer months. As the creatures head out in search of food and no longer hibernating, the organization issued a warning following recent attacks. On May 4th, a bear injured 2 hikers at Mystic Falls Trail in Yellowstone Park. Officials said one or more bears were involved, did not specify the species. The area typically is home to grizzly bears and black bears. That's their home. They noted that the last time a bear injured someone at a Yellowstone National Park was September 2025. At that time, a 29-year-old solo hiker was traveling on a turbid lake trail in northeast of Mary Bay in Yellowstone Lake. Although he used his bear spray, he suffered non-life-threatening injuries to his chest and arm. Then in a different attack on May 6, a missing hiker was found dead with injuries consistent with those sustained by a bear encounter at Glacier. Yeah, right near my house. National parks are wild places, and wild safety is of importance, as Jessica Bowen, the agency comptroller and acting director, said in a statement provided to Travel and Leisure. Simple actions like giving bears space, securing food, knowing what to do before you enter bear country can protect visitors. The NPS encouraged travelers not to use headphones. Oh, boy. I'm telling you, if there's one thing about walking on a trail in a wilderness is you never, ever wear headphones. Don't do it. Animals give you visual, auditory, smells. Now, if all your senses aren't working right, you're not going to hear those subtle nuances that, hey, danger lurks. Not to travel solo, storing food in trash in secured locations, carry bear spray and more, and just a few safety tips. If you do happen to encounter a bear, the NPS warned not to run or approach it. Instead, stay calm, speak in a steady voice, back away slowly, and do not make sudden movements. They also noted that bears typically have hibernation dens in hollow trees or logs, under the root mass of a tree, in a rock crevice, even high in a tree in warmer climates. As guidance, the NPS suggests that people stay about 75 feet away from deer and other animals, 150 feet from black bears. However, this guidance can also vary depending on the national park. It is illegal to feed, touch, tease, frighten, or intentionally disturb wildlife, the NPS wrote. Remember that wildlife in parks are wild and can be unpredictable when they're disturbed or surprised. Amen to that. I can only say that you got to use your God-given sense. And that sense is stay away. Don't get close to animals. Today I have a very, very wild story. And I've always stated that you learn more when you find somebody alive or dead than you do when you don't find anything. This is a California story. And I've never heard of it before. We were doing research and we found this. And it's a bang-on missing 411 case. It involves a young lady named Patricia Ann Garrett, 29 years old, missing March 11th, 1983, a resident of Fair Oaks in Sacramento. She'd been divorced, has 2 young kids, 5 and 4. She was dating a man named James Quick, also of Sacramento. Now, Garrett and Quick decided to take a drive in the woods to look at some proposed gold mining property that Quick wanted to look for. He'd been to this area many times before. In 81 and 80, he had worked some mining claims in that region. The area they're going to had been mined heavily during the gold rush, and there's still a lot of gold up there. So as they're driving up this dirt road in an area called Forest Hill, this is in March, he gets his 4x4 stuck. Let me explain where this is. Here's Forest Hill. This is where they were at a place called Brushy Creek, right near Devil's Falls. Keep that in mind. Todd Valley, Forest Hill Road, Volcanoville, 4 acres. Kind of get the gist of it. The area in here is about 3,500 feet in elevation. It's just east of Sacramento, Auburn, Placerville area. Beautiful place to be. Doesn't get a ton of snow in the winter, just below that elevation, but they do get snow. It's a nice place to live. So they get their 4x4 stuck in the mud. And as he tried to free it, one of Patricia's kids had to use the restroom, so she took them to the bathroom. She took them behind some local bushes right near the vehicle, went to the bathroom. They went back to the car as she was going to the bathroom herself. Completely normal, nothing unusual. Well, Quick couldn't get the vehicle unstuck from the mud. And Patricia's child makes it back to the vehicle. Patricia, using the bathroom in the woods, Quick continues to try to get the vehicle unstuck, and after a short while realizes, where is she? She should be back by now. Starts calling her name. Quick and the kids searched, called her name, didn't get a response. Quick and the boys walked up and down the dirt road, calling her name, not finding anything. 2 miles away is the city of Forest Hill. 2 to 2.5 miles away, they guesstimated. Well, this happened on a Friday afternoon, late. Well, for some reason, unbeknownst to me or any of the reports and articles I read, Quick stayed in the vehicle with the boys that night. They had food, water they had taken with them. And then the next day they started searching again for Patricia. Now, why they didn't walk out and get police is unclear. And apparently, per the police, they searched the rest of that day, and then Sunday morning, they hiked out to Forest Hill and got the sheriff. Now, I know that sounds a little flaky, especially since he knew exactly where they were because he had been there before. So it's not like he was lost. But be that the story as it may, that's how it got laid out. So Quick gets into the city of Forest Hill, gets the sheriff to respond, and the sheriff said he couldn't he was impaired. That's the right word. He was very impaired. The police interview him. He explains what happened, but he's drunk. And he's with kids 5 and 4. So I can tell you for a fact, the deputies were upset. Because he put those kids in jeopardy. He wasn't sober. So they figure out from quick where his vehicle is at and what happened. One of the sheriffs stays with him and the kids and detains him. He can't leave. And a few other deputies go down and confirm they find the car. They then get from quick the information about Patricia and where her family lived, and they call a family member of Patricia's to come up and get the kids as they start searching for her. In the meantime, they arrest Quick because he is drunker than a skunk. And they take him down to the Placer County Jail. So, the kids being 5 and 4, they thought it was best to get them with some family members. And the following day, they had a police psychologist meet with the young kids at the family's home to debrief them to get an idea of what was happening. And that same day, the next day, the sheriff got their homicide team involved in the search. Why? It's a little suspicious at this point. Why is Quick completely drunk, marching around the woods with 2 kids with a woman that's missing? You can see what's happening here in the sheriff's eyes. Well, they bring in their equestrian team, motorcycles, volunteers, and the CHP has a helicopter in this area, and they bring that in, and it had FLIR on it. And they're searching, calling her name, trying to figure out what's going on. In the meantime, it's raining, snowing, very cold, muddy, dirty conditions. Now, the good thing about this is people leave tracks in these conditions. There wasn't a lot of snow on the ground, so you would see the tracks. But they aren't seeing any tracks leaving that general area of where the 4x4 was located and where she went to the bathroom. Well, on Monday, March 14th, they'd searched for a full day. They didn't find anything. And the weather was so bad, they had to bring everybody in, the searchers. On Tuesday, March 15th, Placer County sent in more equestrians, motorbikes, and they called out the department search and rescue team, volunteers. It was full-fledged. They had over 100 people out there looking, calling her name, etc. On Wednesday, the Sheriff's Lieutenant Steve Michael stated that foul play is not suspected. After Quick had sobered up, they interviewed him at length in the jail. They explained that, hey, this is serious. A woman got missing on your watch, and then you walk around the woods drunk with 2 kids. You're lucky we didn't charge you with child endangerment. So he talks. Some of the things they said didn't make sense to them, but then the psychologist said that they were talking to the kids and they wanted to bring them out to the scene so the kids could explain in the best way a 5 and a 4-year-old could what happened. So on Friday, March 18th, there was an unusual twist to the story, and I have never heard this before. In hundreds of cases in California, the Nevada Air National Guard brings in an F-4 jet equipped with what was described as special infrared camera that they had used in wartime to look for bodies. And they wanted it to fly over the area to look for Patricia. They said it was a special FLIR camera. Now, what's interesting about that is FLIR detects heat. Well, they had already flown the area with the CHP helicopter, which had advanced FLIR at the time. But now they're bringing in an F4, which had special FLIR. Now, I don't know what's special about it that the other FLIR couldn't pick up. But they flew the area again with the F4. And they said that the search was centered 2.5 miles west of Forest Hill. And they said that they were bringing in special search and rescue dogs that were being flown in from Lake Tahoe. On March 20th, that would have been on a Sunday, the sheriff said 5 different dog teams that they had brought in, that's a lot of different dog teams, all tracked a scent to an abandoned mine, gold mine. Now, I'm telling you folks, when you get 5 dogs tracking to one location, you pay attention. So the sheriff goes to the mine. They drop a rope down into it, and it's at least 275 feet deep. And he requested a special mine rescue team to explore it. And on March 22nd, they got a private rescue team called the Para-Rescue Corporation out of Colusa, which is in the Sacramento Valley. And they started setting up a special base over the top of the mine that they could safely enter and extricate people. They had to bring in a power generator to lift the person out, etc., etc. Took a while to fix it and get it just right. Well, on the 23rd, they lowered in a rescuer, and they noted that as they are setting this up, water is running into the mine because there's been so much rain and snow. So now you've got a rescuer going down into a wet, cold environment. They still have fixed-wing airplanes flying the area, looking for Patricia, even in the worst of weather. The CHP had dedicated several days. They had pulled out. They said they had no hits on their FLIR. They now were getting reports coming back from Nevada National Guard that they had no hit on their FLIR in that entire area around there. Troublesome. So now they're pouring all their efforts into this mine scenario, and I understand why. When you get 5 dog teams hitting on a space, you're going to pour a lot of resources into it. So that first day they went in, they said it was sketchy. They got down about 70 feet and they pulled out because it was too dangerous. On March 25th, another team attempted to get to the bottom. And this time, they got into 75, 80 feet, and boulders started to fall in off the side of the mine to imperil rescuers, and they pulled out. And these guys were dressed in scuba gear because if they got to the bottom, they wanted to have the ability to search the bottom water area. And the sheriff's office said that this area had a lot of mines, several mines. But this was the only mine that the dogs hit on. And they said this wasn't the type of mine you could walk into. This was the only type of mine that there was probably ladders or something at the time that led down in. But right now, the only way in was by rope. And it was also on the 25th of March that the sheriff stated that the kids spent time on scene with the child police psychologist. And the sheriff said that the kids told them some things that were helpful. They never publicly stated what those things were. That's all that was said. So on the 25th, the sheriff said that Quick had already been sentenced to 30 days in jail for being publicly intoxicated. He also said that they finally got out it quick that in 81 and 82, he had done gold mining in this area during the spring and the summer. And he was there trying to find a location that was given to him about a mining claim that he was going to lease for the season, which was one of the reasons that he said that he had brought that family in with him. And it was also on the 25th that the pararescue team ended the work in the mine, saying it was too dangerous. So you have 5 dogs hitting on this mine, but they can't get to the bottom of it. Sheriff's probably thinking, well, Patricia's down there at the bottom somewhere. Why are we searching? I'm sure he's thinking that. Now, April 1st and 2nd, the sheriff agreed to bring in ground pounders, ground searchers. And it was a group of volunteers in search and rescue, and they searched for 2 days. And they also brought in 3 new dog teams. And the sheriff said that these dogs were different than any of the others, and they ignored every mine in the area, and they hit on the searched mine again. They also worked with dogs along the adjacent creek, and they purposely walked them up the creek and down the creek at over a mile. They saw no tracks. The dogs picked up on no scent. They said they were at a blank. Now, at this point, they brought in almost 15 different dog teams. What concerns me is that were the dogs that were hitting on the mine cadaver dogs or scent trail dogs? It was never made clear. If they were cadaver dogs, they could be hitting on a dead body in that mine that isn't Patricia's, but they didn't know. I mean, they didn't say which type of dogs they were. April 3rd through the 7th, more ground pounders, equestrians, motorcycles, were working the area as the time permitted and the weather permitted. The sheriff also said that they were going to do more search and rescue exercises, training exercises during the spring in that area in the future month of April. No tracks found indicating where Patricia might have walked out of the area. 100 searchers were going to participate in the upcoming training. On April 8th, the search and rescue for Patricia by the sheriff was terminated, he stated. I'm sure that was devastating to the family in Sacramento, knowing that that's it. Now, April 15th, the weather cleared, and the Placer County Search and Rescue did formal training in the exact area where Patricia disappeared. They brought in canines, and the training session, what they do is they go out and they hide things in bushes, hide people in areas, and dogs go out and find them, etc. It was a one-day training session for 10 hours, ran by 2 Placer County Sheriff's deputies. They did bring in cadaver dogs. Dogs hit on nothing in the area again. So the sheriff never stated anything about Quick being a suspect. Never. They did say that he made some statements that were confusing, but he was drunk. So what do you do about that? They never stated what the kids said, so I really don't know what that meant, is that they added to the story, or I don't know. Finally, 18 months after Patricia disappeared, there was a Forest Hill resident named John Pricer. He was an employee of the American Forest Products, and he was doing survey work when he found a leg bone sticking out of the ground, and he called the Placer County Sheriffs. Well, the deputies get there, and they also found a pair of jeans in the dirt right near the bone. So at this point, the deputies need to step away, call for an evidence crime scene crew, seal off an area half a mile, quarter mile, all the way around, and start searching methodically from the inside out. From what you found out. Well, they do bring in a forensic team, and the location was near Portuguese Point. Portuguese Point was very close to Bushy Creek Road, where Quick's car was stuck. And they said it was just west of there, so just west. The sheriff said right away that they were finding evidence strewn as far as 300 yards away. Not unusual. If somebody's body was laying at a scene, you get bears coming in, raccoons, you get all kinds of small animals pulling things away quite a distance. They said it was on a hillside. Pay attention, folks. On a hillside west of Forest Hill. Finally, so they worked that for 2 days. They turned the evidence over to a forensic examiner. And 4 days after they got it, the sheriff stated that they identified the remains as Patricia Garrett. The sheriff stated that the pathology shows no signs of foul play. And Kurt Landry, the detective on the case, answered a series of questions. This is the part where I get very angry. Just bones and clothes are found. Remember that. Landry stated, quote, "It appears to be a classic case of hypothermia. Her clothes and boots were placed in a pile." He said that this was found 2.5 miles from Forest Hill. If she was that close, she should have been in that primary search zone. Clothes in a pile on a hillside. Let's go through this carefully. She and her son went to the bathroom. The son walks back to the car. The son, 5 years old, knows the way back to the car. Why didn't Patricia find her way back to the car? Right? It was really close. But she doesn't come back to the car. She doesn't respond to any calls for help. Never responded to any. How could she get lost being so close to the dirt road that they were driving on? The son and Quick and the daughter, they never said it was a daughter. In fact, they only said one son. They didn't say the sex of the other child. So Quick said he was searching with the kids, calling her name. She never responded. And let's remember this. The sheriff's office said there was no foul play. Multiple detectives interviewed Quick. I'm going to tell you that there's certain things that detectives learn about mannerisms, interviewing people, that you look for, that people don't know that we know, that indicate innocent or guilt. And when you put multiple detectives in front of somebody, and those detectives both come away with the same feeling, and they didn't say that they put them on a polygraph, but I would have. So, remains found on a hillside, clothes stacked. So, if she died of hypothermia, as she's dying from hypothermia, she stacked her clothes. See where I'm going with this? On a hillside, when there's areas that are flat nearby, why on the hillside? Remember the Carl case out of Wyoming. There's no tissue on the bones. It was a pure guess on the cause of death. Because the only way you can determine hypothermia is through soft tissue investigation. They didn't know. Now, there were no broken bones found. That's why they said the evidence in general didn't point to foul play. And because of the statements that Quick made, it didn't point to foul play. And apparently, from what the kids said, it didn't point to foul play. Remember this, no scent trail from the 4x4 to anywhere near where Patricia was found. No tracks found in the soft dirt soil from the area she was in to where her body was found. These are important points, folks. Why did dogs continually keep hitting on that mine? Originally, I thought, well, maybe her body was dumped in that mine and then removed and placed in a different area. But after the explanation about how this mine is, you couldn't get the body in and get it out. It goes in, it goes to the bottom. So, no, that didn't happen. That dog didn't hunt that. So let's go through this. Water adjacent to a creek. Point of separation. She gets separated from her child and something happened. Missing clothes, missing boots. No tracks leading to the body. No scent trail leading to the body. No witnesses. I think it's a classic case. Deputies wouldn't recognize it. They're not trained along these lines. Just because the dog didn't find Patricia, just because there's no tracks leading to her body, they don't find that unusual. I find it highly unusual. So, this is the only picture I could find of Patricia. 29 years old when she disappeared from Fair Oaks, California, just outside of Sacramento. I feel very bad for her kids. Very bad. They're still alive, I'm sure. I hope that they have recovered from the loss of their mom. That's a biggie. That's horrendous. I never read or heard anything more about Mr. Quick. Don't know what to say. So, in the meantime, another missing 411 story. Please be kind, be safe, treat people with dignity and respect. And not just dignity and respect, go the other direction. Be overly nice for the next time you go into the store, next time you're in the post office talking to a clerk. They don't see a lot of kindness. Show it to them. And appreciate sometimes what you have. Sometimes that's hard to do. Instead, we sometimes concentrate on what we don't have. Think about what you do have. And I'll remind you, go to the Joe Rogan Experience. I did an interview there. You can find it. Just go to YouTube, type in the Joe Rogan Experience. You'll see my interview there. Over 2.5 hours long. I think you may find it interesting. I appreciate you so much. Be kind. Be patient. Paulides out.